given you 2 coordinate points. Okay? So what I'm going to do now is just quickly put on a video to see maybe if Tim and Moby can explain it in a different way before I start to explain it. Okay? So let's take a look at this. Christian, can you put the lights on for me, please?
Yup.
Yeah, keep that. Okay? Just keep that. And we're just going to... Let me know if you guys can hear it.
Good time for a letter.
What type of slope was that?
Dear Tim and Moby, how do I find the lines slope and intercept? From Dana. Let's start with slope. The slope of a line is another word for its steepness. This ramp, for example, is really steep. In math, slope is just a measure of how something changes vertically, or up and down, compared to how much it changes horizontally, or left and right. Well, to find a line's slope, you've got to look at 2 or more of its points. The line of this ramp can be thought of as a series of points that are connected. Right, the best way to visualize this is with a coordinate plane, a 2-dimensional representation of space. For details on that, check our coordinate plane movie. Every point on a coordinate plane has a numbered location, kind of like coordinates on a map. A point's location along the y-axis is its y-coordinate, and its location along the x-axis is its x-coordinate. To find the slope of a line, you need to find out how much its coordinates change as the line goes along. Alright, let's take a look at 2 points along this here skate ramp. One point has the x-coordinate 5 and the y-coordinate 6, while the other has an x-coordinate of 0 and a y-coordinate of 1. To figure out the slope, we want to find out how the positions change exactly. The slope, or m, is equal to the amount of change in the y-coordinates divided by the amount of change in the x-coordinates. Right. Some people call that rise over run. It helps you remember that it's a vertical change over a horizontal change. Let's try it for the ramp. Our 2 y values are 6 and 1, and our 2 x values are 5 and 0. So the slope for this ramp is equal to the change in y, that's 6 minus 1, divided by the change in x, or 5 minus 0. The slope is 5 over 5, or 1. In other words, for every 1 meter this ramp goes up or down, it goes across 1 meter. You can find the slope of any straight line the same way, as long as you know the coordinates of any 2 points. Maybe you should go first. Oh, almost forgot the intercepts. An intercept is a point where a line hits or intercepts the x or y axis. For our ramp line, the x-intercept is minus 1, 0, and the y-intercept is 0, 1. Well, the y value of the x-intercept is always 0, and the x value of the y-intercept is always 0. What? That's just what happens. Using the slope and 1 intercept, we can write an equation for that line in what's called slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form is expressed as y equals mx plus b,
Looks familiar?
where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. So for our line, that's y equals 1 times x plus 1. You can use this formula for all sorts of things, like finding more points on the line and even graphing it. Watch our graphing linear equations movie for more on that. Yes, we did what we came here to do. To the stairs.
Say that letter? Negative slope. Perfect. Okay, we'll take the quiz later, but I just want to reinforce what he said, okay? So right now, like I said, we've been working with equations of lines, you've been calculating the slope, but I'm eventually not going to give you a picture, okay? And what I'm just going to give you are 2 coordinates, and using those 2 coordinates, you're going to have to be able to find the slope, okay? But in math, there is a systematic way of doing it, okay? In front of you, I give you a blue and green color pencil, which you guys are going to use when I tell you to do so, okay? So let's start out, okay? To find slope using 2 coordinates, okay, you're going to use this equation. M, which stands for slope, as we know, equals y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So what I want for you guys to do now is highlight that formula because you guys are going to be using it a lot. Okay, so it's just quick and easy for you to have access to that. Okay? We can talk about that after. Okay? We have this? So go ahead and highlight. You have the equation, go ahead and highlight that, okay? Okay? Okay. So, Tanisha, step number 1 tells you to do what? Okay, did you hear that? What'd she say? What's step number 1? Yeah, so every single time you're going to write the equation first, okay? Step number 2, Chanel, what do I ask you to do? Say that louder. Label the coordinates, okay? So I have 2 coordinates. I have -4, 6, 2, -1. And the way that I want you to label it is like this. x1, y1, right? Because when you look at a coordinate, x always comes before y, right? And then our second coordinate is x2, y2. Why do you think I'm labeling it x1 and then x2? Say that louder. One more time. Exactly, so that you know the difference and that I'm not just talking about x, okay? Let me give you an example that you'll understand. How many Christians do we know?
2.
I know 2 Christians. I know Christian F and I know Christian A, okay? If I just talked about Christian, what would be the logical question for you to ask me? Which Christian? So if I keep talking XXX, right, you guys should really ask me, which X are you talking about? Which is why we're labeling it X1, X2, Y1, Y2, right? There are two coordinates, okay? So what I want you to do is take your green pen and just box X1 so that you remember that X1 is in green, okay? So take your green color pencil and box X1. Okay? Now remember, X and Y always go together in one coordinate. It's X and then Y. Okay? So in our first coordinate, we have Y1. Take your blue color pencil and box that. Okay? Very good. Now our second coordinate, we have X and Y2. But remember, the reason why I call it X2 is because there's 2 X's. The reason why we call Christian F is because there are 2 Christians, right? So instead of, so let's go ahead and take our green color pencil. Box X2 green, and then Y2 blue, okay? This is just helpful.